We're really plunging into the thick of African women's football. We've got a stack of reports here covering some, well, pretty pivotal, friendly matches recently. And our mission really is to unpack what these games are telling us about the state of play, the big aspirations these teams have, and those intense rivalries shaping the sport across the continent.
Exactly. And what's fascinating, I think, is watching how teams use these friendlies. It's all about fine-tuning, learning those hard lessons, and position themselves. Especially with the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, WAFCON, just around the corner. It really makes you ask, how much do these high-stakes warm-up games actually reveal about who's truly ready for the main event?
Yeah, that's the core question, isn't it? So let's kick off. Our sources first detail a really interesting match. Malawi's Scorchers against Ghana's Black Queens. This one happened in Morocco. Ghana took it 3-1. But what really jumped out at me was Malawi's coach, Lovemore Fazili. He basically said they lost because of inexperience compared to Ghana. Pretty blunt.
Oh, very candid. And Fazili's comments, they give us a lot of context. Yeah. He actually said he was happy with what we have learned. He sees these matches, playing against, quote, big teams which have been to the WAFCON or World Cup finals before, as crucial learning opportunities. And this wasn't just about Ghana. Remember, they'd played Zambia, South Africa before. And just before this Ghana game, they lost 4-2 to the hosts, Morocco.
Right, so it's like paying for an education on the pitch. And if you look at Malawi's wider context, this 3-1 defeat, it was actually their 5th loss in just 6 friendlies. It definitely paints a picture of a team still developing, right? They're gearing up for a 2026 WAFCON qualifier against Angola, but that's not until October next year. Fazili specifically mentioned wanting to test how North and West African teams play because, as he put it, Angola is similar. It really does sound like a long game.
It absolutely is. It's a, almost counterintuitive approach, isn't it? Malawi seems to be consciously trading maybe potential wins now for that vital tactical understanding later. These defeats, they're framing them as like necessary lessons, using stronger teams to find their own weaknesses, build resilience. The focus isn't today's scoreline. It's building that experience for when it really counts in the qualifiers. It's a calculated risk development over immediate results.
That's a great insight. Okay, so that leads us nicely into the next big match highlighted in our sources. This is the one lots of people were talking about. Nigeria's Super Falcons versus Ghana's Black Queens. And this is where, things get really compelling. The reports talk about an age-old rivalry. And the timing couldn't be more significant. It's set for Sunday, actually. That's today, June 29th, 2025. Over in Casablanca, Morocco. It's basically the final tune-up before WAFCON kicks off on July 5th, also in Morocco. They're calling it a dress rehearsal between, two of Africa's fiercest women's football powerhouses. Even for a friendly, the stakes feel massive.
Oh, absolutely. And from Nigeria's side, their aims are pretty clear, very ambitious. The Super Falcons are chasing a 10th WAFCON title, which would extend their own record, by the way, stretching back to 1998. So for them, this match is about reinforcing that status, about, quote, defending dominance, sending a message before the tournament even starts.
Yeah, and their interim coach, Justin Madugu, he's certainly not holding back. Our sources quote him, "I am not under pressure. We know our target. We are going for the trophy. That's what doing well means for us. It is Mission X for every one of us."
That's a pretty confident talk, especially for an interim coach right before such a big tournament.
It is confident talk, and if you step back a bit, Madugu's interim position itself has a symbolic weight, doesn't it? If he succeeds, it could really change perceptions about indigenous Nigerian coaches, maybe open doors for others. So there's perhaps a bit of a personal, psychological layer for him too, beyond just the team result. It's a chance to prove something about local coaching talent. Interesting point. And speaking of Nigeria's prep, the reports give us some details there too. Their 24-player squad got into Casablanca Wednesday night. Key players linking up, like the star Asisat Oshoala and Folasad Ijemelusi. And before that, they held Portugal to a goalless draw in Lisbon. Must have been a useful tactical exercise, that one. Okay, so let's flip to Ghana's perspective in this rivalry. For them, the goal seems quite different. It's not just about WAFCON prep. It's described as being fundamentally about belief, about finally maybe breaking the glass ceiling.
That's a key difference, absolutely. Ghana's coach, the Swede Kim Lars Björkegren, he admitted Nigeria's one step up, called them one of the best teams in Africa with good players in almost every position. Yeah. But then he immediately followed with, but that's also what we need now. So he sees this as a necessary challenge, doesn't he? A way to really measure themselves against the very best before it truly matters.
And Ghana's got some wind in their sails, too, according to the sources. They've had back-to-back friendly wins, that 3-1 against Malawi we already talked about, and also a solid 4-2 win over Benin Republic. So, confidence should be building.
Confidence, yes, but it's the history that really adds weight for Ghana here.
Mm.
They've been runners-up at WAFCON twice, way back in '98 and 2002. But crucially, they've never lifted the trophy.
Yeah.
So this game in Casablanca, it's more than just practice. It gives them a real feel of what it takes to dethrone the queens of the continent.
Mm.
It's a mental hurdle as much as a physical one.
Mm-hmm.
Can they convince themselves they belong at that absolute top level?
So, tying this all together for you, the listener, looking ahead to WAFCON, Sunday's Nigeria-Ghana match, it's definitely more than a friendly. It's shaping up to be a proper preview of the fire and fury we can expect at WAFCON soon. For Nigeria, you could say it's about refining ruthlessness, making sure that dominance is unquestioned. And for Ghana, well, it's all about proving they can finally step into the light, maybe grab that title that's always eluded them, a real clash of ambitions. What a fascinating look at the strategies and the pressure building ahead of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. These friendlies, they really do show you the intense competition, the careful planning, and those deep rivalries that make African women's football so exciting.
Yeah, and if you think about the bigger picture, these so-called friendlies often end up being less about the final score and much more about the critical lessons learned, those psychological edges gained or lost, and how teams build their identity when the heat is on. It leaves us with a really interesting question, doesn't it? How will all these pre-tournament experiences, the wins, the losses, the tough lessons, how will they ultimately influence what happens when WAFCON actually kicks off?
A great question to keep in mind as the tournament approaches. Keep exploring the incredible world of international football.